everyone. Welcome to Wednesday, July 10th, council meeting. I will ask everyone to stand for the singing of our national anthem, please.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. At all on his quality says one sends stand on Canada, we stand on stand on.
Are there any additions to the agenda this morning?
Not from administration, Madam Mayor.
Okay, any from council? Is there a member of council that'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Sheriffs. Thank you very much for that. All in favor? That is carried. Any corrections or amendments to the July 10th, 2024 regular meeting of council minutes? None? Is there a member of council that would like to adopt? Just trying to look, okay, sorry, I think I screwed up there. The, any corrections or amendments, it's supposed to be the July 26th, right? Like on here?
June 26th.
Or June, sorry, June 26th, it says July. So any corrections or amendments to the June 26th, 2024 regular meeting of council minutes? None. Is there a member of council that would like to? Thank you very much. Councillor Clark, all in favor? That is carried. I know it says corrections or amendments, it says item 9.2. I don't need a motion to correct that since we're tabling it. Do I?
No, you don't.
No.
It's been tabled. It's been removed from the agenda, and we'll deal with it when Rogers submits their amending proposal.
Okay. Oh, I guess it's not on your guys' agenda. It's on my agenda. It says this, sorry. We have no proclamations this morning, no public hearings. We do have one delegation from the RCMP this morning from Corporal Nothies. Good morning and welcome. If you'd like to come down, you can either go to the podium or to the chair here if you'd like and give us your stats.
Yeah. Good morning,
Morning.
Mayor and Council. As you said, I'm Corporal Nothies. I've actually been here 9 years, but I tend to do it quietly, so many of you don't know me. And I was thinking here, when Malcolm used to come, he'd always say, he always told a joke. But I'm not going to do that because my kids are pretty adamant that I'm not funny. So I believe Brian sent over the statistics. Yeah, you've got them up there. I kind of went through this a little bit this morning. From last year, same period to this year, versus crimes down 4.3%, property crime 8.8%, Total criminal code up 3.1. Now, I did take a look at this, and I'm not sure where we get some of these statistics and how accurate they are. For example, when I read that there was one provincial roadside suspension in May, I'm like, that's not correct. So I did a very quick search, and that's actually at least 3. We had 2 in the same night outside the bar. So I'm not 100% sure on that. Spousal abuse also seems a little low. But it depends entirely on, or it depends a lot on how our files are cleared and how they're scored. So I'm kind of OCD about that, but a lot of people, they just want to get rid of that and go on to the next one. The other criminal code, they're showing, when you go, on no, previous page. Sorry. On that page, it's showing a 12% increase in break and enters. I know we did have a little spell of issues over kind of on 58th Street in the industrial area, kind of crimes of opportunity at 3 in the morning. And then on the top, the other criminal code, 56% increase. I went through some of these statistics and the squiggly lines on the rest of the pages. A lot of it, the numbers are low enough that they're not really that valuable. For example, extortion, we're up 200% over the past 5 years. But 2024, we had 3 files. And I can tell you most of those are going to be what we now call sextortion, where, you know, a beautiful woman befriends me and wants pictures, and I send them, and then they want money because they're not really a beautiful woman. So lonely people getting scammed, essentially. Another one I noticed was we were up 900% in disturbing the peace. That's because we had 1 file in 2024, which again doesn't sound quite right, and 10, I think, last year or in this period. So again, that's probably more of a scoring issue. We have one fellow in town, and I'm sure you've all seen him sleeping in random spots, and we probably have 30 files just for him. And sometimes we just don't know what to call that. So sometimes it's mischief, sometimes it's a bylaw. The community standards bylaw is kind of handy for covering some of what he does. So I would say, if anyone has specific questions about those, I'll try to answer them, but a lot of it is the numbers are low enough that it can change. I did notice another one in the other criminal code, firearms, offensive weapons. Actually, that's down. And that covers breaches as well, failed to comply, that's up. You know, the time I've been here, I've noticed that it's a lot more common to pull over a vehicle with a degenerate, I'll use that term, in a stolen vehicle or whatever. It's a lot more common to find a firearm in there than it was when I got here. It's like the badge of honor. We must get a sawed-off whatever to prove how bad we are. Luckily, they don't shoot at us usually, but it's just, you know, when I first came, that would be like, wow. Now it's like, it's just part of the day. So is there any questions from anyone?
Thank you very much for that. I'll open it up for questions. Councillor Clark?
Thanks for coming, Brian. A couple of questions. I know on of course, we get all our news from Facebook these days, right?
Yeah.
You know, we see some stuff lately that's happening, stuff like drilling into gas tanks and emptying gas tanks that way. When you look at stuff like that, like that's pretty tough to prevent, right? there's really not much you can do in that sort of instance, is there?
Well, I don't think so. It's a matter of being in the right place at the right time. It's a matter of having people that are vigilant and watching. Sometimes it's frustrating because we get calls a week later that we wished we would have got then. And we get people calling in stuff that we don't need to be called in. And other people, why didn't you call that in? For example, the fellow that stole from the library here a week or two ago, he's now been released the second time. He had a tablet with him. And luckily he hadn't been able to change it yet, but push the start button, it opens up to a guy's name that I recognized in a company. And I called him and he said, well, that's really funny. I was frantically looking for it. And he said that, you know, he generally doesn't report stuff stolen because he knows we can't do much about it. But, you know, had that guy with the tablet had another hour, he's computer smart. He probably would have cleared it and never get it back. So sometimes it's reporting, sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time. But, you know, even if we have a night with 4 people on, when you drive a police car down an alley, it can be heard. You know, with summer, we can do bike patrols, but we have to have 2 bike trained members, and we also have to have at least one other person in a car if somebody's found. So it is tough. And frankly, driving around town, I think some residents, not want to victim blame, but people could do a little more for prevention. You know, lock your car. Don't leave your tablet in your car if it's in view. But even, like I drove down a laneway, my last block, and the entire laneway, and it's in a nice neighborhood. Not that every neighborhood in Drayton Valley isn't nice, but, you know, not a single motion light comes on. People, like if it looks like a mess, the criminals are gonna think it's open season. So, same with the oil field stuff. Our chance of being in the right spot at the right time to catch somebody in the act is pretty tough.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry,
I
would
was
you,
just gonna
would you
ask-
like an update on our file from the other day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, it was just at 5 o'clock, shift change, so it was kind of lucky because we had day shift and night shift around. We got a call of a fellow having a firearm pointed at him in his vehicle by somebody he didn't know. He was able to give a good description, tell us which way he was going, except he wasn't from town, so he mentioned Drake Street, and some of our members were like, Drake Street? One of them knew where it was though, and because he was wearing a nice purple shirt, which is unusual, they caught him going into Rotary Park, over by the Scouts Hall side, but, you know, walking across, they did a high-risk takedown. He was compliant, got her, you know, taken into custody without issue. But he did have a loaded 410 shotgun sawed off in his backpack with extra ammo. I don't think he had any plans to partake in anything at the splash park or, you know, make national news. I think he was actually looking for his father who had a vendetta against. But yeah, it turned out well, other than some traumatized kids over in the park. But it happened really quickly, not much we can do about that. He was held for a bail hearing, and even though he didn't have much history, because of the seriousness of the offenses, he's remanded till next week. And we put out a media release that should be going out today, so the public, like an official media report, so. Yeah.
And where is that media report available for the public?
Well, on that one, I went through the media relations person who does an official one, and they'll disseminate it to their, I don't know how they do it, but it'll go to, you may hear it on CHED News.
Okay. Do we typically receive those media reports from the RCMP?
It depends on the issue. If it's, this one I hadn't heard of, so Sometimes Ryan or, who's the gentleman that just left?
Troy,
Troy would send it, say, hey, this is going out,
okay.
but we haven't received any of that yet.
I
Okay.
can,
Yeah, if you can just
Yeah, I
double
can
check to
forward it
make
over.
sure
She
that
just-
we receive it, and then that way we can post it on our social media means too and get it out so people are aware
yeah,
as
she
well.
just sent it to me this morning. I think it was going out this morning, so, because we wanted to wait long enough yesterday. Because once the accused has their bail hearing, once the information is sworn, then it's public knowledge, so
Then we
we
can,
if it's an adult, we can put it out, which we did.
okay.
Don't always do that, but
Yeah, if you can just double check to make
Yep.
sure that we have a copy
Sure.
of that. Just a couple questions. Bike patrols, do those happen regularly, that officers are going out?
no.
No?
We do have, there's just some problems with that. Number one is the RCMP wants people doing bike patrols to have the bike course,
Okay,
which is a 1 week long course that isn't held that often. And frankly, it's intended for members of the beat in Calgary who spend their entire day on a bicycle. So now that we have one again that I know of, there may be two, we can risk it out and do that, but it is a matter of having enough people scheduled too. So if you have the right people and enough of them, then you can do it.
then you can do it, yeah. At the
We do the
beginning,
occasional foot patrol too, but
Okay.
again, especially at night when they're doing this stuff, where do you start?
yeah. At the beginning of spring, I seen a couple of the officers out a few times, so I just wondered if that was kind of just a regular means of going about the community and patrolling.
It can be.
Sometimes sporadically.
yeah.
And then also in the report, it says 500% increase to arson. And then it says 6 incidents. Is that accurate?
It could be. What we would score arson as, and this one doesn't normally happen in town, but sometimes people will steal a truck
Okay,
and to get rid of the evidence, they'll take it out into the country and burn it. And we will score that as arson. But that wouldn't come into the town because I can't recall the last time they lit one on fire in town. But we did have those lovely individuals that got drunk one night, I don't know when that was, January or something, and decided to light several dumpsters on fire and light the
oh,
shed on
yeah,
at the
I
Beehive.
remember, yeah.
So I think the majority of those, and I know we just did have a dumpster fire, but who knows whether it was intentional or Tom might know.
Mhm.
But I think most of that statistic is probably from that one incident.
Okay,
And
Um,
that's waiting for court still.
okay, thank you. And any highlights or anything happening in the summer? I noticed that you just had the RCMP open house recently.
Yeah, we had
which
the
was
open house.
fantastic.
We've, our district has instituted some, what they call visibility days, where they want us out and about. That is sometimes problematic, just because you, so much paperwork now, you have to do that. But it was funny, actually, the head lady from Western Alberta District in Grand Prairie came to visit, said she was coming to visit. So everybody was at the office waiting to see her. She's like, well, nobody's out on the road. Well, that's because you're coming and you're here, you know? But we do also try to keep track of some of the events that are happening around town. Like I just got an email yesterday about Halloween in the summer, you know, so I don't expect any issues from that, but I did forward that to the guys working to say, you know, go out and fly the flag and be around. But beyond that, not aware of anything. We have improved, impaired driving days that are like national enforcement days. I think the next one isn't until the fall, so.
Wonderful. Well, if there's no further questions, thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate you taking the time, sharing the stats with us, and hopefully you don't get too hot out there in the heat today.
Thank you very much. Turn this
Okay.
off.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care. Thank you. And that is it for our delegations this morning. No business arising from that. We can jump right into our decision items. 9.1, library bathroom renovations is up, and that is way too many agendas here. Mr. Ferris is reporting on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the library bathroom renovations. So the Drayton Valley Municipal Library approached administration to assist in funding a portion of the bathroom renovations for library patrons. The library would like to start and complete the renovation this summer. They have agreed to cover the cost of the renovation this year with a request that the town pay 50% of the cost out of the 2025 budget. The estimated cost for this renovation is approximately $10,000. If council approves this request, the town will obtain 3 quotes. If the quotes are within the above mentioned budget, the administration will proceed and work with library staff to complete the project. The financial implications are that the town would include half of the renovation costs of approximately $5,000. And that will be in a budget request form that will be deliberated by council during the 2025 budget process. Service level implications, it should increase the service levels for library patrons, as the library will now be able to let people into the washroom when the Civic Center is closed. The washrooms will be labeled gender neutral, allowing any gender to use either one. With that, administration respectfully recommends that council direct administration proceed to obtain 3 quotes for the renovation, and that council direct administration include 50% of the finalized construction costs as a budget pressure for the 2025 budget as defined in report AIR 24-163.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions for Mr. Ferris or administration? Councillor Evans?
So Wally, I guess this would give them the ability to police or control the bathrooms on the hours that the town office isn't open?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So when we speak of the washrooms, it's the one right here, or is it the other one? The back of the office?
No, it's the 2 that are right here. So we would close off the first door. If you're walking in, you'd see there's 2 doors.
Yeah.
First one would be closed off from this entry and repositioned inside of the library.
So I guess it would be anyone from the public that was coming would have to then go into the library to,
Well, no, we would still have control. There's 2 bathrooms here, so we would still have control of the door of the access for the one closest to
oh, okay.
the front desk.
Okay, so it'd just be the other one.
Just one, yeah.
And then with this proposal, is there still a discussion on the table for the library potentially moving to the CTC or another location? And
I don't think so. They haven't approached us on that. We did have a number of meetings with them. They had a couple of ideas, and frankly, that's kind of what we were expecting to come forward with, but they wanted to take this approach first.
okay, so this is the first and then see how that goes. That could come back, or?
It could
not
come
quite
back as, time goes on and their space pressure continues to increase. We may see them back with that request.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, is there a member of council that would like to make motion? Councillor Clark?
I move that council direct administration to include 50 well, let's say, I think I'd actually like to reword this, to a maximum of 50% of $10,000 of the finalized construction costs as a budget pressure for the 2025 budget as defined in report AIR 24-163, and that council direct administration to proceed to obtain 3 quotes for the renovation.
Thank you
That's-
very much for your motion. Did you get that? You did? Okay. Could you just read it back, please?
Council directed administration to proceed, and that council direct administration to include a maximum of 50% of the finalized construction costs as a budget pressure for the 2025 budget as defined in report AIR 24-163.
Is that right, Councillor Clark?
Well, I think what I would like to say is to a maximum of 50% of 10,000. So if it's 12,000, we're still giving 5, right?
Okay.
is what I was proposing. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. Did you get that? Okay, perfect. Any comment, question, debate on the motion made by Councillor Clark? None? Okay, then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for your report. Next up is 9.2, Student Recreation Package Proposal. Mr. Namburai, good morning and welcome.
Morning, Council.
Good morning.
So for the student recreation package, looking back at the proposal and background information, starting this September, the University of Calgary will be introducing their Bachelor of Science in Nursing program here in Drayton Valley. To register for this program, applicants must reside within 120 kilometers of Drayton Valley and be Alberta residents, which would unfortunately make it quite difficult for those chosen students to take advantage of the university's athletics and recreation campus. So to address this, during the June 17, 2024 Joint Recreation Board meeting, an expression of interest by the town was put forward to the board for a pilot student recreation package specific to the University of Calgary Registered Nurse Program. So the proposal was to allow for a reduced combined pass for both the Drayton Valley Fitness and Aquatic Center. As it stands, the town has already introduced a pass for the student and senior combined pass, and the proposal for the student recreation pass is to extend those same fees and rates to this as well. There are currently 9 students registered in the program, and it is these 9 students that will be targeted for this student recreation package. And so in talking to the board about this proposal for this pass, 2 options were discussed in how that would impact the fees and rates schedule. And so if you find there is a memo attached. And so within the memo on the second page, it does detail both implementation approaches to the fees and rates schedule. The first option was to basically include the student recreation package to the already existing student and senior combined pass. And then the second option was to basically have it as a separate line item to identify it as a University of Calgary pass. And from those discussions, a motion by Councillor Cock was made for option 2 for the student recreation package and for that to be brought forward to respective councils for endorsement and approval. And this was later on carried. And within that motion, the Joint Recreation Board is requesting council's endorsement for the student recreation package to allow for a reduced combined recreation pass for the students enrolled in the business and nursing program. Furthermore, in the July 2nd, 2024 Brazeau County Council meeting, the same proposal was put forward to the County Council, and the recommendation was that the county send a letter to the town endorsing the implementation of the student recreation package. I believe you should have that letter attached as part of your package as well. And so that letter basically details the county moving forward with the recommendation for this package, and also looking to have this implementation within the fees and rates schedule as well. With that said, the only financial implications that we saw on our end would be this reduced service fee for the combined recreation pass for participants in the Bachelor of Science in Nursing program. And apart from that, the service level implications will be for, if approved, the town's growth services department would then work alongside community services and the recreation team in organizing and orchestrating an administrative approach for this service delivery for these students. And with that said, the recommendation is that council endorse the student recreation package proposal and amend the fees and rates schedule per the Joint Recreation Board motion as defined in report AAR 24164. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Does anyone else have the letter from Brazeau County in their package? No?
I believe the letter, excuse me, your worship, I believe the letter just came in yesterday.
Oh, okay. And oh, it did? Okay, and it's just a letter of support? Any questions for administration? So I guess I would question, so part of the program is, in option 2 is that the U of C Bachelor of Nursing students wouldn't have to pay for, any fitness passes. That's correct, right? It would be included in their registration?
So through to your worship, since these students won't have access to the University of Calgary's campus, they basically can opt out of that and not have to pay the university. And so for us, we thought this would be a great opportunity to then provide them this alternative, right? Have them come to our aquatic and recreation fitness center. And, but it's voluntary, so they would choose whether or not to do it. And for the 2 options we gave to the recreation board, that more or less just had to do with how we would implement it within our fees and rates, whether to just combine it to the already existing student pass or just create a new separate item.
Mhm.
Yeah, in which they chose the second option, right? Just have that separate item that identifies the University of Calgary. That was basically it.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. I think that your recommendation for the option 2 is a great recommendation. I think that if we're going to be having students that are, obtaining a university degree program here at or in our community, I think it's important that they have the whole university campus experience. If they were away, then they would have access to so many of these other things. So I think that, yeah, this is just one way that we can definitely create that experience. I wonder if there's been talks with yourselves in the university, or if you've heard anything. I know with some of our other programs, we talked about not just everything surrounding academics. We talked about fitness packages. We talked about volunteerism in the community. We talked about getting involved with clubs and organizations. I guess giving them kind of welcoming packages, letting them know what, Drayton Valley has to offer. Are we still going ahead with all of that for these students as well?
Yeah, so through to your worship, we did have a meeting with the University of Calgary and AHS last week, in which they, this actually also detailed in my department report. So on the 27th of August, right, they will have an orientation. And as part of that orientation, there'll be a lot of information shared to those students. And we just wanted an opportunity to talk to the students as well, to bring forward, this proposal that we have, and then any other resources that we might find. With the student support specialist position that we have at the CETC, in the first few months, we went through an exercise of trying to find all these supports within the community that we can provide to students and any other person that walks into the CETC. And so we'll do the same for these University of Calgary students and just work with them to sort of see what other opportunities there are within Drayton. So yeah, definitely it's a priority for us.
Good, perfect. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, everything from even when you think of banks where they have like student rates and things like that, and it's important because if you were to go away to college or university, that's all kind of done for you. So if we can still do that and ensure that our, we're setting all of our students up for success and letting them know what's all available in the community, I think it's great. Thank you for that. If there's no other questions, is there a member of council that'd like to make a motion? Councillor Evans?
I'll make the motion that council endorse the student recreation package proposal and amend the fees and rate schedule per the Joint Recreation Board motion as defined in report AIR-24-164.
Thank you very much for the motion. Is there a member, or sorry, any comment, question, debate on the motion? None, then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for your report. Last up for decision items is 9.3, tree removal along 50th Street South. Miss Shelley Terry, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and members of council. So in 2023, council asked administration to prune the trees along the walking trail on 50th Street as they were overgrown and needing attention due to overhanging branches along the walking trail, posing a safety risk for passing pedestrians. After obtaining costs on completing this work, it was discussed to reach out to Fortis to determine if they could clear the trees in the area as they are located underneath the power lines. Fortis has agreed to remove 7.5 meters of the trees along this bush line free of charge. However, removing these trees could require additional landscaping in the area, or would require additional landscaping in the area in 2025 to improve the aesthetics, making the area look more inviting for the public. Removing these trees would also remove the windbreak in this area, creating additional efforts for snow removal in the winter months as drifting may occur in this area once trees have been removed. I've attached a map of the area in question. It's by the BioMile. So it's from the BioMile kind of down that one or the west side of 50th.
So BCG?
Yes,
This
yeah,
Brownwell?
Yeah.
Okay.
all the way to approximately ACR along that stretch. Proposal administration is requesting direction from council on how to proceed with this tree line along 50th Street. Below are two recommended options. Option 1, to keep the trees along 50th Street. There will be a one-time cost of $7,000 for pruning, clearing underbrush and deadfall, and an increase of $3,200 annually to maintain the tree line within this area. The cost to complete the maintenance on this tree line can be absorbed in our current operating budget for tree maintenance without asking for additional funds to complete the work during the 2024 fiscal year. This will clean up the tree or the area and keep the trees away from the walking trail for improved public safety. Option 2 is have Fortis remove the trees in the area outlined on the map free of charge, then plan for landscaping the area in 2025 fiscal year. Obtaining a quote on landscaping just really isn't possible until the trees are out of there to kind of see the extent of the ground below. Financial implications with option 1 will be a one-time cost of $7,000 and an increase of $3,200 annually to maintain the tree line within the area. Option 2, trees will be removed free of charge by Fortis. Cost to complete landscaping of areas to be determined once removal has been completed. Risk implications, potential of snow drifting to occur in the area after trees are removed, which will increase snow removal costs for both the road and walking trail. Landscaping will be required to improve aesthetics of the area in 2025 after tree removal has been completed. And limited options on trees that we can plant there as Fortis will determine what we can and cannot plant in the area as there is power lines involved. Organizational implications, if option 2 is preferred, minimal increase to lawn maintenance in the area will be required after the landscaping is completed. Service level implication, either option will increase service levels as walking trail will be free of obstruction for safe passage. Stakeholders and community strategies. So communication to all stakeholders that has been completed by Fortis already, and they have all agreed to allow for the trees to be removed along that area. Some of those areas are not all town properties, so we did have to reach out to those property owners to make sure they were okay with it. Communication to the public will be released through our social media outlets prior to completion of work if trees will be removed. And I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for administration? Councillor Evans?
Thanks for that, Shelley. Yeah, I'm all for cleaning this up, most definitely. Do we need to, so say we remove all those trees under the lines, is there any reason why we couldn't just landscape that and have grass and then plant trees offset from the line a little bit? Like I just see if we're going to take all these trees out and then plant new trees, we're going to end up doing the same thing.
Right.
Eventually, but you, I'm assuming you want a bit of a windbreak there to help with drifting, et cetera. So I don't know, I guess maybe there'd be some snow fence up there until we get something established. Here's my question. Could we plant some standard trees, whatever, spruce, whatever we want, setback from the power lines instead of underneath them? And is that going to accomplish getting a windbreak in there?
So I'd have to look at exactly where property lines are in there and whether or not we can push the fence line back and plant at that setback, because I believe the setback is, from what I understand, was 1.5 meters is what Fortis had told me.
Yeah,
Or we could plant the poplars that kind of grow up
right, those,
in that area. There is options. They did have a whole list of trees that we could plant that don't grow out as much to kind of control that. So there's options for what we can and can't plant, but I'm sure we could try to establish that setback pending, it would depend on property lines, so.
so it would be okay for the property that the town owns. We obviously control that. So the private property along the way would be the issue.
Correct.
Okay.
Could be the issue.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of it, at least through the biomile there, just offsetting that row of trees just to eliminate the hassle, and then we can just cut beside there under the lines, no? That's what I'd like to see, and then talk to the landowners, and then if we can offset further up where private property is, fine. If we can't, then we'd go with the recommended trees that Fortis gives us. That would be my suggestion. So I think we could build up a little, probably grade up some material there and have a nice little area to plant trees, just a meter and a half back, unless you see issues with that.
I mean, I can bring many options back to budget on what the landscaping looks like thereafter, depending on what you guys choose today, yeah.
So I guess my question would be, I don't remember council asking administration to prune the trees along there. Are they overhanging quite a bit? Like that they're obstructing the walkway?
Yes, there has been reports of that happening. So the trees do, if you look, next time you drive by, have a look, there's quite a bit that overhangs there and it's quite narrow
Yeah.
in there. So yeah, it would require a good clean up and pushing them back, those branches.
So typically, what is the regular maintenance that Fortis provides along, or do we typically
They,
provide that maintenance when?
well,
when
thank you
it's
for the
due?
question. They don't prune the sides. They only really cut the
The
top.
top, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're offering to remove all the trees. Is there any chance that we can say, we don't want them removed, we just would like you to prune them and clean up the trees as you trim the tops? Could you trim the sides too?
Unfortunately, no, they won't.
They
They won't do
won't?
that. If they're gonna come in and spend their money on any type of maintenance, it would be either cut the tops like they would normally do, which isn't this year's rotation, or remove the trees. Those are our
Remove
two
the
options.
trees. Yeah, I don't know how Biocomposite, BCG would feel about us removing all the trees right there. And I just think we've done that in other areas. I just don't know if it's necessary to remove all the trees rather than just cleaning up and pruning and picking up the deadfall. I know there's other areas in the community too where we kind of have that. What type of typical maintenance plan do we have in doing that cleanup regularly?
Right. This area wasn't really identified until last year, kind of late in the year. So
Yeah,
right now, this is what our maintenance plan would be moving forward as per my recommendation.
okay. So if the option, if option 2 was removed, then we would typically just go in and do the pruning, cleanup and all that. And do we have a certain budget that we set aside for this type of maintenance everywhere throughout the community?
Yes, we do. It's under our boulevards maintenance.
So it's under boulevards and we don't have any in there?
We've done some. We're focusing this year on hazard trees, but that budget still has quite a bit remaining, so I could absorb that this year.
Okay, so we may have money there, wiggle room?
No, we do. We do have the money. Sorry.
Oh,
That
we
was-
do have money
yes.
still in
Yep.
the boulevards
Yep.
budget
Correct.
to do that ourselves. Okay. I'm just wondering if that's not an option, just to take the money that we already have slated for or in our boulevards budget and prune the trees, clean them up to the best that we can, and rather than removing them, because I think we're going to remove them and then we're going to have to look at it of how we're going to replant them. we could deal with the same thing going forward, as well as now we're going to have a cost anyways to replace those trees, right? And maintain them. So I'm just kind of that mind. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Evans?
Yeah, if we, personally, I think those trees are pretty ugly under the power lines there. And if we hack them all back, you know, we're just going to end up with the same issue in another couple of years. I recommended pushing them back from the power line so we get the same, we get some foliage there, we get some trees there, but we don't have to be constantly trimming them back. If they're offset behind the lines, they're not growing up underneath them. Yeah, I just think it would look better that way instead of having a bunch of trees that are constantly being trimmed back and the tops cut off them. And I don't know, they're looking pretty ragged there in my opinion. And I don't know if a trim job is going to do much as far as the aesthetics.
So you're suggesting just to remove them all?
And plant a line of trees, you know, Shelley mentioned the columnar poplars, those tall straight ones, and we could plant some, you know, spruce trees as well, but they would be, you know, offset behind that line. So they could grow. We wouldn't have to trim them a lot, probably many years down the line if they started to encroach on the power lines, as opposed to having all those ones underneath the lines that are constantly going to be hacked back and trimmed. And so I understand it'll cost us some money to put in, drop some trees in there, but it's also going to continually cost us money to keep trimming them back directly under the lines.
So it doesn't typically cost us any money, right? That's Fortis's regular maintenance?
On the top,
Yeah.
yeah, but to keep them from encroaching on the
Sidewalk?
on the walkway there and everything, and to keep them reasonably nice looking, that's our baby.
Mhm.
Right. Madam Mayor, if I may, Councillor Evans is correct. The one thing I want to make sure that's clear is that, you know, Fortis will come in, they'll knock the tops of them off. This is an area that, for whatever reason, has not been identified for regular maintenance by the town. So if we leave the trees in and clean up the underbrush, we can absorb that cost this year, but it will increase our operating costs annually by 3,200 because we'll have to continually maintain that area. Whereas if.
Won't we have to anyways, no matter what? We're going to be
Yeah,
planting trees there?
Absolutely. So whatever council's decision is on this, if Fortis, if the council's decision is have Fortis remove the trees, then Shelley will bring back another report once that's all done to say, here's the cost to clean it up, plant some extra trees, do this, here, whatever the issues may be. Or Fortis comes in, just cleans up the top. Shelley and her crew goes in at an estimated cost this year of about 7,000, which we have, to clean that up, trim the branches back so it's not impeding people on the sidewalk. But that's an area that we will have to constantly maintain annually, and that is an annual increase in our operating budget of 3,200.
Regardless of what option we go with.
No. If we go with option, sorry, I don't know which one it is. If we go with the option of leaving the trees in and cleaning it up, our annual maintenance costs increases by 3,200. If Fortis knocks them down, if you go with that option, then Shelley will bring back another report that will say, this is how we're going to landscape the area, fix the issue. There will still be ongoing maintenance costs there. We can't, it depends on what we put in. But for the first little while, it will be menial if there's trees there because they're not growing that fast. So is that clear?
Yeah. Councillor Clark, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, increase of 3,200 annually, that wouldn't be an increase annually. That would be just a one-time increase and it would hold there, correct? I mean,
No,
like you,
No.
Okay, sorry, ask the question one more time.
so it says $3,200 annually. So what that's saying is we're going to increase $3,200 every year.
Oh.
So it's a one-time $3,200 increase that will carry over into perpetuity. Okay.
And well, eventually we'll have ongoing maintenance there. It'll be part of the program, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, but what it's saying is though, it's a one-time increase and it will just hold at $3,200 per year.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, regardless of how we look at this, we're gonna have, maintenance costs, right? So whether we clean it up or leave it as is or whatever. I mean, the one thing that kind of comes to mind is, you know, when people go walking or running or biking on that stretch, it's pretty long and that is a long hill up. We have, I think, one bench on there. You know, potentially and perhaps we leave trees over top of those for shade. And then maybe add another bench there somewhere to kind of help that situation there. Cause like I said, it is a long hill. I've done it a few times. So, anyway, just a couple thoughts, but yeah, I'm fine cleaning it up, one way or another, whether we chop them down and do something different or, nip the tops off and just prune them. I guess I'm a little more partial to, I guess, nipping the tops off and then pruning them just because, yeah, I think they're ugly as is, but if we cleaned them up, it'd probably look a lot prettier than what it currently does. So anyway, that's my thought.
Mhm. Yeah, good point. Okay, any other questions? Now we're kind of like, yeah,
Or comment.
sure, go ahead.
We talked about trying to improve the aesthetics of that southern entrance. And the way I see it, if we have a row of trees there, as Wally said, we won't be trimming them for many years, especially if they're offset from the power line. All that we'll be doing for the first probably 10, 15 years is rolling a mower around in between those trees. If we plant grass beside the where the old trees are coming out of, offset the new ones 1.5 meters back, it's just a matter of cutting it all the way along there, as opposed to having to keep dealing with the trees that are under the lines. Anyway, I'd still like to see us plant something else there and clean it right up, pull all that stuff, all that junk out of there and go with new, nicer trees. So I don't know where that leaves us if you.
Roll over. Councillor Sheriffs?
So I am kind of stuck in between, but I do agree with Rick about removing them and moving them further away from the power lines, except there's some private property owners that may not be okay with it. So I'm not sure if this should be maybe brought back to council after discussion with the property owners. Because if they don't agree to moving it back a little bit, then we're gonna have a zigzag of fence lines. Not sure.
Yeah, the property line will stay the same, and I agree. They have every right to say pick what they want. I'm really only referring to the mile there in our lands, for sure. Offsetting it behind there, by all means, if we decide that's what we want to see, we can approach the property owners. But yeah, by all means, if they just want them trimmed up, then that's what we do. I don't know if that's going to really bother the aesthetics there.
What I mean, I didn't mean like moving their property line ownership or not. I just the planting of the trees, if they would be okay with moving them back. So I don't know if it's a decision we can make without knowing that, really.
You could make the decision of option one and then there's not having to contact the property owner, or you could table it and, and
But-
talk to them.
Yeah, I rode my bike on that stretch quite a few times, and those branches do hit pretty hard. Yeah.
And, and would the intention be, if you were to go with option 2, or we were to go with option 2, you would bring back a report, there'd probably be no trees planted this year, so you'd be pretty bare? Yeah,
That's correct. It
Yeah.
would probably not look the nicest for this year until we come back next year and do the landscaping.
yeah. For me, that, yeah, I would definitely be leaning towards option 1, because I think clean it up, leave the trees, and move on to the next area. I know that when we've taken down in other areas, and then how it looks for a year or 2 years, or gets pushed, and then all of a sudden we have no trees there, right? Councillor Sheriffs?
I agree with you because I'm worried about the snow blowing over on the road and on the sidewalk too. Is this a tree removal from Fortis, is this kind of like, we're going to do it this year or never? Or could it be approached again next year once we maybe have a little bit more of understanding what it would cost to do some landscaping?
I don't think that it'd be off the table with Fortis. I think that it'd be just a phone call to them and they'd be willing to keep working with the town. The reason they're doing it right now, it's not because it's due for maintenance, is because they want to maintain that relationship with the town of Drayton Valley, so.
Okay, so if we just trim them this year and save money on having to remove snow more often on that pathway and come back to it next year and maybe have a little bit more of understanding of what we can plant and how far we can go back, and would that be
It's definitely an option.
preferable? Yeah.
There's no other questions. Is there a member of council who'd like to make a motion? Councillor Clark?
Just regarding the snow drifting, so south of this, the identified area, do we have drifting on 50th?
We do on the walking trails more so than the actual road.
Okay.
But that area is a lot easier to maintain because we can roll off to the side, not have to bring the blower in to pick up.
Okay. Yeah, and I suppose that is another kind of an issue with clearing that, right? Is you're pushing it towards the road versus trees. Okay.
Okay. Is there a member of council who'd like to make a motion if there's no other questions? Councillor Clark?
I will make the motion. We go, excuse me, with option 2, trees will be removed free of charge by Fortis. Cost to complete landscaping of the area is to be determined once mulching has been completed. Or sorry, it's not it. Yeah, that council directs administration to approve Fortis to remove trees as presented in option 2 as outlined in AIR 24-166.
Okay, sorry, what was your motion?
Fortis removes them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Option
the
two.
alternative, is that the one?
Option 2.
Option 2. Okay. So did you get that? Got that? Perfect. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? The motion is option 2, Fortis remove the trees as outlined in the map free of charge. Go ahead, Councillor Sheriffs.
All right, is Councillor Clark adding the council direct administration to bring forward? Are you including that in your motion?
That's the other part. Excuse me, and that council directs administration to bring forward a budget item for landscaping to be decided during the 2025 budget deliberation. And that's all I got, yeah.
So the motion is that council directs administration to approve Fortis to remove trees as presented in option 2 as outlined in AIR 24-166, and that council directs administration to bring forward a budget item for landscaping to be decided during the 2025 budget deliberations. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? Then I'll call the motion. All in favor? All opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much for your report. That is it for our decision items this morning. Do we have any council initiated items? None? Maybe I'll call a 10-minute break and then we'll come back and do department and council reports. Okay, thank you very much. We will reconvene our meeting at 10:11 a.m. and we'll jump into our department reports. First up is 11.1 Municipal Services Department Report. Ms. Shelley Terry.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'll start with the Utilities Department. So milestone report was submitted to Infrastructure Canada for the grant we received for the decommissioning of Cell 6 at the wastewater treatment facility. Preliminary design report was submitted to Alberta Environment for the wastewater upgrades prior to deadline. Alberta Environment has some questions about the report and have given us until July 14th to answer all the questions they provided. We sent in our second acute lethality sample, and we were pleased to say that we had passed that test. I also wanted to make note that Oceans and Fisheries have reached out and have said that we potentially qualify for temporary authorization to release until our upgrades are completed in December 31st, 2026, which would waive all acute lethality testing until then. We're currently working on that application and we'll give you an update on how that turns out. New online meters are all serviced at the water treatment plant. All online meters are serviced at the water treatment plant and calibrated. That's a requirement through Alberta Environment that we have a third-party company come in and do all of our calibrations on a yearly basis. Lagoon sludge survey are happened on July 4th to confirm sludge depths in our first 2 lagoons at the wastewater treatment facility. Exercising CC program is still ongoing. We have located quite a few small broken deficiencies on CCs that we're working through right now. And we are currently advertising for a new vac truck operator again. The last operator has left the organization. Parks started back on boulevards for mowing and have completed a full rotation of mowing throughout town. Parks have been working on shrub beds at the CETC to get ready for all the wedding events starting on the weekend of July 5th. They got a lot of work done. It took them a full week to get all the shrub beds cleaned up in there, but it does look much better. Mowing of ball diamonds and shale maintenance is ongoing as baseball season is still ongoing as well. All purchased flowers have been planted and a greenhouse donated flowers to the town, so we have more flowers to plant and we'll continue doing that until July 12th. Staff continued ongoing maintenance for watering and fertilizing of all of our hanging baskets and beds. Weed whacking is still ongoing. Training is being planned for gator operation and mower operation to get all staff trained on the equipment. And right now with this heat wave, it's kind of a great opportunity to get that completed. Staff have been working on getting compliant within their safety documentation as well. Public Works, mowing of large green spaces was completed once, full rotation, and crews have now started back at the beginning on the second round. Plans have shifted to get the pond area completed for CETC due to wedding events happening on the weekend of July 5th. So that was completed. We were working on ditches and kind of moved them away to get that completed for the wedding. Pothole repair is still ongoing. Maintenance street sweeping is still being conducted around town. Crack sealing has been completed. All areas planned for this year were completed on budget. We had added additional locations to the scope of work if budget allowed for it, but unfortunately the areas that we completed took up pretty well the whole budget. Line painting was scheduled for Friday. They had some mechanical failures on some equipment. They are now here today and will be starting on all our not our long lines, but our crosswalks and signals today. Catch basin cleaning is currently underway along 50th Street and will continue in other areas throughout town. Dust suppression was scheduled for the 27th, but then rain happened and prevented us from getting that done. It is now scheduled for Thursday, July 11th. Sidewalk repairs should kick off mid-July, weather pending, and it kind of depends on 50 Ave construction as well, because one of the subcontractors in that is who got the award for our sidewalks. So it could be pushed to the beginning of August, potentially. Landfill and engineering, GFL started on a pickup litter along all the tree lines east of cell 4E. That's part of their contract. We had to cancel the airspace on Halicis due to the rain, but the contractors rescheduled for July 8th, so that has been completed now. Ongoing work to maintain the cleanliness at the recycle depot. We've noticed that wind has been flipping the lids. So I'm working with the contractor to see how we can stop that from happening because there's litter every day in there that we're dealing with. Monitoring cell 4E to make sure GFL uses daily cover material at the end of every day. Maintain cleanliness at monitoring like our hazard waste facility at the MRF building. That's been going very well. Leachate measuring and monitoring levels according to the AEP approvals. That's ongoing. Border paving started on work on 50th Ave on July 2nd, and ADCO was scheduled to start on July 8th. They are now mobilizing today. They had to get first calls redone because once we milled out the asphalt, all of our markings had been removed. So they had to have those all marked again and surveyed for realignment of the gas line. So they should be on site today, starting that. And we issued a service agreement for snow removal facility design proposal to WSP. And I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you very much for your report. Any questions? Councillor Clark?
Got a couple. So DFO reaches out and says we're going to waive potentially any acute lethality testing. I mean, regardless, though, we're still going to put forth our best effort to make sure we're not hitting the critical levels on the acute lethality. Great. Okay. And then the other thing was when we milled out 50th Ave there, do we reuse that asphalt at all, or is it?
It's part of the contract, so they recycle it. And then, so they use a portion of it in the newer asphalts to recycle that material. But as per the contract, it went to the prime contractor, which is Border Paving.
Okay. That's all I got.
Any other questions, Councillor Evans?
Where are we doing dust suppression?
Multiple locations throughout town. So we're doing Range Road 75, pretty well that whole stretch of Range Road 75. That's off of 62nd Street. Then it turns to Range Road 75 there. So that whole road, but one location will be dust suppressed this year. We're doing 34th Ave, which is over by where Valley Power used to be. So where Metal Next now is. We're doing that whole stretch as we had all of the people along that stretch pay their fee to get it done as well. Doing a portion of Mitchell Drive. We're doing one alley by Carol LaPointe's. She does this every year. And we're doing just off the ring road. I can't remember what township it is. It's township 492, maybe. It's where that slough has happened on, yeah, there's that gravel road there. We're doing a section of that as well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And do we do the road behind Dairy Queen, like the M&Ms and what was the sorry? 6?
Yeah, no, we didn't this year. Nobody wanted to participate in the dust suppression fees as per our policy. We did do repairs last year to that road, which included dust suppression within those repairs. But moving forward, we want to follow the policy, and nobody on there has reached out to pay for dust suppression.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for your report. Oh, do you have one more question? Go ahead.
Sorry. The ring road, the speed limits on there. When we have 50 east of the south entrance, is that town property or is that county?
That's town.
It's town.
Yeah.
So 50 kilometers an hour there, can that be raised at all to 60? Because 50 is awful slow there.
Every council comes in and they adjust the speed limits everywhere at least a couple
'Cause
times.
I guess my thoughts there is there's I think it's maybe 3 residents on the south side of the road. Otherwise, the traffic, the major traffic comes from the north side, just around the bend there. So I don't know, it's awful slow in my opinion. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that. And then potentially north of 50th Avenue on the ring road as well. Now that the school's not there, there's 1 residence, 1 business and the water treatment plant. So anyway, just some thoughts around speed limits. And then lastly was just the intersection at 43rd Street and 50th Avenue. School's out. Can we make that potentially like just a 3-way stop as opposed to sitting there with nobody else? So just make the lights flashing red.
So where?
43rd Street, 50th Avenue, St. A's.
50th pulls off. East
Oh.
there's a 3-way stop.
Yeah.
Operating. Yeah. Anyway, just a couple thoughts around traffic.
I'll look into them.
I don't know, and that's for discussion. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on those, or if they're dumb, tell me I'm dumb, but, I don't know, just some things I see driving around town.
No, I think definitely the three-way, well, we have the construction going on. We could do that. I don't know about the changing the speed limits. Like I said, every council comes in and they change the speed limits randomly all over the community. And we usually do it a couple times. And then it seems like the next council comes in and changes them back. We've changed the speed limits on several of those places a few times. So and I don't know if I'm really interested in changing the speed anywhere again. I don't know how everybody else feels though.
Well, we had a recommendation from our community peace officer that we make it 50 kilometers a blanket, 40. Yeah, 40 across there. So a little reckless trying to bump it up to 60 kilometers.
Speed
So
demon.
I don't know. I think it's a little slow, but do we
Safety first, Colin.
want to spend the money to bump it up 10 kilometers? I don't know. I'm wishy-washy.
Thank you for that. So for the area under construction, we can certainly look at that as a three-way stop. We'll have Shelley and Cody take a look at that. For the adjustments on the speeds, if council wishes administration to look at that, then we'll take a motion from council and bring back a report with the options and the impacts.
You can make a motion. It might not get passed, but
So I'd like to make a motion that council directs administration to look at the speed limits east of the south entrance on the ring road to increase from 50 to 60. And then again from 50th Avenue North on the ring road to increase from 60 to perhaps 70. Thank you.
reckless. Yeah, right? Oh, Councillor Clark has made a motion. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? Councillor Sheriff?
So I would agree with changing the 50 to 60, but I can hear what happens on the ring road just by the water treatment plant as it is already. And there's a lot of people doing a lot more than 100 on it already. So I would just maybe keep it 60 all along ring road. No, but there's a lot of Speedy Gonzalez on that road as it is. So I would just maybe suggest keeping it at 60 all the way
So you're
through.
making a friendly
Amendment.
friendly amendment? Okay, so it's just Colin's just asking for from the 50th, coming off of 50th Avenue to just the corner of, east of the south entrance, changing that from 50 to 60. Okay, there's a motion on the table. I'll call all in favor. All opposed? That is carried. So you got, So just that one section then. And then, and then the other one, just 100. No, no, the other one will remain the same. Did you get that, Shelley? Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah. Okay, so it's just the one area. And then to look at the lights as well on 50th and 43rd. Okay, thank you very much for your report. Next up is 11.2 Community and Recreation Services Department Report. Mr. Von Klauberman, good morning. What do you got going on with your tie this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's still fresh, but in the spirit of the Oilers, I'm still supporting, of course, the Dutch soccer team that plays at 1 o'clock.
Is this
We can
supposed to
still
be
make
this
it.
one? This is supposed to be like
This is the Soccer European
Okay.
Championships.
Yes.
So we're playing the the semifinals, basically the same that Canada did. Unfortunately, yesterday, we know what that ended, but it was great soccer anyways.
yes.
And so I'm rooting for this afternoon for the Netherlands still.
Good, wonderful.
Thank you, and through the chair to the rest of council, the report on the Community and Recreation Services Department. So in ECDC, you see that we always thank our sponsors, and that's for swimming for sure, but we worked at least a little bit to go to the park. That was Rotary Park on June 21st. That was National Indigenous Peoples Day. Because that's close by, of course, the kids were joining that event as well in the park over there. And it's great that we continue those relationships with our Indigenous partners in that field. So on the FCSS side, you see some stats over there on our phone booth. We regularly report on that. With that said, there's a lot of calls that are happening that are really relieving our Rotary House. When people come in over there, they have the opportunity, of course, to utilize that phone. But we see that the phone here outside the Civic Center is even more utilized by our public. But it's great to see those initiatives that we took a couple of years still bearing fruits in the sense of usage. We have the cooling center that's not on there, but we opened yesterday at least the invitation. We do see people, of course, during a heat period seek for some shelter or cooling. They come to the pool, they come to the Rotary House, but also the Omniplex. And we advertise that again, that the Omniplex is a location to come out, sit over there, hang out with each other a little bit over there if that's possible, and get a water and a refreshing over there. The Omniplex itself, and we did the events, of course, on Canada Day. So we saw about 1,700 people. We counted at the front door. We did not count at the back door. And we anticipated about 1,700 attendees came to the inside events on Canada Day. We had a successful parade first, of course, that everybody was enjoying. It was a long parade again with a lot of participants. And the fireworks in the evening were successful again. So there was a great Canada Day celebration. In the pool, and that's one of the locations where we do camps. So the summer camps, still people can register the kids for some of those weeks. They go through the whole summer. There's so many camps happening in and around town. You see sometimes signs that camps are full, and try to figure out a location where you can have your kid basically hang out and be engaged with a certain theme, and have, let's say, volunteers, but also professional people hang out with your kid and make sure that they are, let's say, engaged in an activity that they really love to do. The activities that we also have in the pool are a couple of those special events. So check out Facebook. That's a location, of course, where you can always find information on what's happening. But they are here listed as well. Every week, basically, there's a specific swim happening in our pool. So we theme those, and it's always fun to see people come out and enjoy what specific is on that swim. The community services, where we talk about our housing program. It's always a success when people utilize that program of our affordable housing. It is a time-limited program, basically, because people stay there for a couple of years. And basically build on their own potential to move out to other rental or even purchase locations that they buy their own home. So another tenant is moving out that was able to now purchase their own home. And of course, July 2nd, the Cadence Court location was renovated and repaired, and the people moved in that location as well. On the facilities, pickleball courts, that's behind the hospital. It's always, of course, wear and tear over there. So once again, we put some new nets up. We do the servicing over there, and we're looking into servicing in the long run as well, because those courts are getting dirty, crack a little bit, and wear and tear has to be taken care of. Events that are happening in the community, one is not mentioned over there. July 24th, Summerween is a downtown event organized by the River Valley Players. So that's with the local shop owners, kind of a celebrate Halloween in the summertime. So we see those events happening. Check out for that, of course, This is Drayton Valley, the website where we also always push organizations towards, if they want to promote their event, utilize that. And we see that happening more and more. If there's any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you very much for your report. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Evans.
Hans, I know it's on Facebook, but can you just let us know what I'm curious really, what the Fear Factor swim is and, you know, the hot dog swim?
Thank you for that question, and of course, through the rest of council as well. So those are regular swims that basically is regular admission, but they are themed. So when it's dressed up a little bit over there, we do activities. So the staff will do a fear factor swim, things that are a little bit scary to do. So take participants into a challenging environment at that moment. It's a public swim, so people still pay regular admission. When you talk about water gun party, that's exactly what it is. People can still come but expect to be, let's say, sprayed a little bit more than just the spray features that we have with water guns and stuff like that. Money swim is basically, we called it in the past, penny dives. So that means that you have pennies going to the bottom of the pool and are challenged to pick those up and see how many you can gather. So it's activities that are happening during public swims that people can come out. The hot dog means that we're not allowing dogs in the pool. Of course, it has to do with food.
So they're not as scary as you might have imagined, like Fear Factor, where we're filling the hot tub with snakes and spiders and encouraging the kids to jump in. How far are we taking it? I think that was the question, right? Anybody else have any questions for Hans? Just a couple this morning. Our bouldering wall outside of the pool. I've heard from residents that it's closed on a regular basis. Why is that?
Thank you for that question. So it was closed last week. I think it was Thursday, Friday. Not really closed, but our maintenance team was working on it. The bouldering wall itself, we know, of course, it's a little bit of a challenge when things are, let's say, people use it. So bolts and holds are spinning. So we have now Loctite them. That means they can still be changed or for maintenance or for a route setting. But that means that it's not closed, but it's now being repaired, that the bolts and the holds are holding and stay in place and not spin around on the bolts itself. So it's not closed. Most of the time, yeah, it's basically open for the public 24/7.
Okay, so it is open on a regular basis.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just been a couple times maybe for maintenance
Yeah,
then?
that's correct.
That's why? Okay. Okay, I guess that's all I have. But I had more here. But the same concerns that Rick had. Thank you very much for your report. Next up, 11.3 Enforcement Services Update Report. I believe this is Mr. Thompson this morning. Good morning.
Mayor and Council. This morning, I'm here to an update report for Enforcement Services. So in the first half of 2024, Enforcement Services investigated 434 complaints or incidents. A lot of that was primarily focused around animal control or property maintenance concerns. Although this does seem like a lot, this is a reduction from the last couple of years, which is good to see. So our community standards bylaw is effective and it is doing its job, as well as our constant enforcement and education has also reduced that. So our community is getting the message that looking after your property is important for us. So that's a positive. Also, Enforcement Services has also been busy dealing with traffic-related issues. We issued 550 warnings and tickets. 379 were warnings, 170 have been tickets. We are continually seeing concerns around individuals running stop signs and red lights to the point that it's repeat offenders that we are seeing. We know that in our community, intersections pose a greatest risk for collisions, so we are actively monitoring different intersections in our community. The Enforcement Services Department also has fielded approximately 95 inquiries from the public, people asking different questions in relation to bylaws or traffic safety concerns or issues or questions. We've also been actively engaged in the public, participating in numerous events such as the breakfast at the Legion, pancake breakfast at the Legion, Canada Day Parade, the flag raising ceremony to honor the Indigenous Days, Seniors Tea, as well as the Holy Trinity Grat. So they've been out and about in the public. Another important part that we've focused on for this year is to patrol the school zones. So our enforcement services people have been out. We did approximately 222 school patrols, which is great. I want to make sure that our children are safe when they are going to and from school. A couple of other things that we've been working on. We have now got to a point where we are able to implement our upgraded body cameras for our officers. Hopefully we will get that activated by the end of July. This will continue to protect both the officers and the public during public interactions. We've also been working with the RCMP to renew our memorandum of understanding. This is important in the fact that it will allow our officers to now be able to use the RCMP channels on their radios, which has been a safety issue. Several years ago, back in 2018, the RCMP in the province took those away from community peace officers. They then recognized the importance of having them, so now they are allowing community peace officers to have those channels again. So that's a positive step forward. One last thing, yesterday afternoon, the department was contacted, the fire department was contacted by Alberta Emergency Management Agency for an emergency deployment up north of Peace River in a place called Green River for a 14-day deployment. We will be sending 2 crews. 1 crew left this morning at about 8 o'clock for the trek up north. We will be sending 2 crews for 7-day stints apiece to participate and help the communities up there during wildland fires that they're dealing with. This kind of we've done this. We did this last year as well. We also deployed in Northern Alberta as well as the Northwest Territories, and it bodes to the fact that our staff are well trained and they are experienced, and then consequently the province is calling upon us to assist in helping other communities. So it's a real positive step forward. And that's my report.
Thank you very much for your report. Any questions for Mr. Thompson this morning? So you said that the deployment, it was the same thing that we did last year. Did this have anything to do with, or I guess, does it support the motion that we made here a few weeks ago about, I guess, lending our services and equipment out, the agreement that we signed? Does it change anything, or how is that kind of put into effect?
Yes, but this deployment wasn't from that.
From that,
But
okay.
that would be an example of.
That's so, yeah. So did we go this route? Did we go through that agreement?
No, we were contacted directly from Alberta Emergency Management to deploy. So
Okay.
it wasn't done through a municipality, which is how that would work.
Okay, so then the agreement that we signed, I guess, what is the benefit, or how is that used or obtained, like going forward? Typically, if somebody like AAR would contact us, was it kind of just
Well,
meaningless, I guess?
not necessarily. That a deployment can be done a number of different ways. It can be done through the province, as it was this time around, or the municipalities themselves can reach out and ask. And so that is more what that agreement was for. That also, it included emergency personnel, but also included civic staff as well. So if they needed a planning section chief, then we could deploy our planning section person here to go up and assist with that. So that's more from a municipality request as opposed to this one, which was provincial.
So the provincial deployment request, we had a similar one last year. Have we ever had municipal requests then?
Yes, several times, especially around close to us, like Parkland.
Yeah.
Parkland did a mutual aid request. We've also gone to Wetaskiwin County We've been to a few other municipalities as well.
Oh, okay, perfect. And then one last question. When we attended the RCMP open house, did you have an opportunity to reach out or connect with search and rescue in regards to storing their unit? Were you
I
forwarded?
just met with
Oh,
Wally yesterday about that, and we will be having a meeting with them to discuss that.
perfect. Councillor Evans, did you have a question?
I do, thank you. Tom, since this request came through the province, how are the rates established for our equipment and people, et cetera? Is there, do they have like an established rate that they pay anybody that they request to come help, or do we have a specific agreement with them, I guess?
No, there are established rates that are based around the Alberta transportation rates. So when we respond to motor vehicle collisions, the province pays X number of dollars to us when we're doing that type of activity. So we use those same rates. They are the ones that are used by every municipality, every fire service throughout the province. And then the payment of firefighters there's also a standard rate for that as well.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to establish that, yeah, we are being reimbursed for these
Anytime,
folks we're sending up there.
yeah, anytime we are deployed, we are paid for that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your report. Next up, 11.4 is Growth Services Department report. Mr. Nambirai. Good morning again.
Morning. So under economic development, the Rural Nostrum program remains active, as we have now received 284 employee applications. For education, the University of Calgary have confirmed their orientation date for August 27, 2024, to be hosted in the CETC. So there was all scheduled lunch for these students, and the idea is for them to basically create a guest list, and so at some point, they should reach out to council and administration to identify people that want to go to that lunch and meet some of these students and just be part of that event. Apart from that, the University of Calgary have now sent us the agreement for the registered nurse program, so we're just in the process of reviewing that, and we'll for sure bring that forward to council at some point for approval. Also, the education management plan is complete, and so this is something we'll be bringing forward next week at JMP, just to have a discussion and sort of see what council's thoughts are on the plan itself. And moving forward from that, we will also be collaborating with the University of Alberta, our research team, to host an education development workshop on July 29, 2024, in the hopes of integrating this information into the education management plan and just having, stakeholders that have, I guess, some part to play in education have a say when it comes to a lot of these things that we're trying to plan. And last but not least, within education, we are having discussions with the Northern Lakes College over renewing their lease in the CETC. And so we're just having discussions about what that looks like and just making sure that we can come to an agreement with them. And when it comes to this sustainability, I guess when I wrote this report, there were 2 pre-qualification applications that we received. We got an email yesterday saying now it's 5, which is great. So, a lot of people are now signing on to the Clean Energy Improvement Program, and it seems like it's something that they're interested in. And so with every application we receive, we then look at it internally and just go through our process and seeing if we can approve them or not. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Sheriff.
About the Clean Energy Improvement Program, could you give whoever's online and is interested in a little bit more information, what it involves and how to apply for it?
Yeah, certainly. So through your worship to Councillor Sheriffs and to anyone else that's online. The Clean Energy Improvement Program is essentially a financing scheme through the town and in partnership with Alberta municipalities that allows for residents within Drayton Valley to make a proposal, basically provide a proposal for upgrades that they're looking to do in their house. So clean energy upgrades, whether it be to their windows, to their doors, solar panels. And through this scheme, they can basically get financed through the town. And from that financing, it would then be applied to their taxes. And so the program is meant to just make it a little easier for you to afford for making certain upgrades to your house. And over the course of the amount of years that you'll be due to pay for whatever upgrades you're doing, that'll just be coming from the payments that you make on your taxes. And so right now it's available to all residents within Drayton Valley. And so yeah, it's a really great program for anyone that's looking to make any sort of changes that that they've been looking to make for quite a while and just not have to pay for everything upfront.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Last department report is 11.5, Corporate Services Department report, and that is Ms. Thompson.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, we've been busy. In the finance department, we've been training and working with our new intern in REIT, and I've introduced her to council today. So she's on an 18-month internship, so we're really looking forward to getting some projects done during that time and for her to get really good municipal training. Some stuff that she's working on is some extensive trend analysis that will help us in preparing for budget. And then we are also in the initial stages of budget preparation. So administration's talking about all the projects, preparing to present that initial list of projects on the 24th. We're also working on a new accounting software. So our software is coming end of life, so we have to do something. We have to switch to something else. And so we're starting that process of finding out what's out there and if we simply upgrade or what our best options are. And we're also just renewed our banking. We didn't renew, we have a 3-year agreement with them, but every year kind of we look at like what's working, what's not, customer service, all those kinds of things. And as Kundi was talking about, the SEEP applications are now starting to come in. So we're processing those from the finance side. And we're also working on the Q2 close, which requires numerous financial adjustments, and then also the reporting that will come to council in the next few weeks. And then, of course, the finalizing of the 2024 tax penalty batch. And we are doing the collections this year have been right on par for prior years. So we haven't seen a big increase in non-payment at all. And IT, of course, we're very busy just with the day-to-day help desk type of supporting other departments. We're also working on a way to track perhaps a new way to track all our IT inventory. And then, of course, we're continuously working on improving our network and data security. And kind of on that front, we've had a lot of emails over the last couple of days, those phishing emails that pretend that they are coming from a superior typically, saying, and it's typically something urgent, there's a deadline, I'm in a bind, can you help me out, that kind of stuff. And so we're really trying to train staff on what to look out for. And really at the end of the day, the biggest thing for that type of a scam is simply looking at the email address. You can very quickly see it's not actually coming from the person that it says it's coming from. So if you see an email from the mayor and the email address, and it sounds kind of weird, you're like, she's asking for money, it's kind of weird. Just look at the email address. And if it's something executive@gmail.com, it's not the mayor. The mayor's request should be coming from her email address. So that's a very quick way to eliminate that. But that's just something we're working on internally right now. But I know council probably gets the same email. So just a note there as well. And then some other things, we're working on reviewing resumes and we're starting interviewing for the legislative manager position. And then, of course, I think we've talked about this before, but we're talking about possibly some options for fleet management for the organization as well. So that's what finance and corporate service has been up to.
Thank you very much for your report. Any questions for Ms. Thompson? Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
When I look at the inventory tracking system, does that fall under asset management side of things? Like, are you talking like computers and
Yeah,
stuff like that?
we're talking about much smaller items than that would fall under our asset management. So we're probably just going to be doing it via an Excel spreadsheet on Google, on some sort of sharing type of spreadsheet, just to keep up to date. When our organization grows to this size and we have departments all over the place, just a better way to, we're not big enough probably to where we would pay for a system necessarily, which would be nice to have, but that's kind of, we're at that awkward phase where maybe we can't justify paying for a tracking system, but we're working on something that perhaps we can do internally that's a bit more efficient than what we've been doing.
Then one last question, and maybe this is for Kundi as well. The SEEP, is that apply to commercial too, or is that just residential?
I think the first run of applications is for residential, and then we were going to open it up for commercial after that first run. Is that still correct, Kundi? So we could possibly, and our bylaw does allow it at a certain point, I believe. We just have to decide when and if it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess my only thought there is commercial buildings are typically ones that use the most energy and waste the most energy. So could be an easy win there. So.
Okay, thank you very much for your report. And that wraps up our department reports. We'll move into council reports. First up is Deputy Evans.
Number one off the hop, eh?
Yeah.
I did miss last council meeting, so I'll just go back to, June 18th had a sustainability committee meeting. Looked at a few different things, water conservation, what we're doing there, and also, as I keep talking about, our addition to our utility bills, and we've got a couple of things percolating there. And as well, I think another one that we could include in that is the CEIP opportunity. So we'll discuss that next week at our next meeting. June 26th, that was the council meeting I missed. I was at the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance annual general meeting. Reeve Guion and I spent the day chatting, which was interesting. And yeah, they've got a lot of, again, they've done a lot of good work over a lot of years. Again, just tracking the basin in general that feeds the North Saskatchewan River. They've got a couple of finance projects again this year, and student initiative. They're bringing in a bunch of students as well for testing and tracking and all that kind of stuff. So always interesting, the information they come up with of what's going into the North Saskatchewan. Then to Canada Day, participated in the parade. Didn't throw any candy off the float. I was on foot and passing it out nicely. And enjoyed the celebrations at the conference center. We slung a bunch of cake. Man, I think we went through about 15 of them suckers. It was pretty popular, but it's always fun chatting with people and handing out cake. Doesn't get much better than that. And then just the agenda setting on the 4th. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Councillor Sheriffs.
So I was at the EPAC meeting. There might be some changes. We're looking at other options for the projects that they're planning. As the budget is the price of the current proposal is a little bit steep. Then Canada Day Parade, I just wanted to say thank you to administration for decorating the float, and water guns were great idea, I think. Loved it.
Some people thought.
Well, I did, because trying to
On
walk
that, on
around.
this end, we did, but on the other end, I don't think there were two.
Some people liked it. Well, not being able to throw candies anymore, having to run back and forth. Yeah, a little bit of cold water was a nice treat. And then on July 2nd, I had a tour of our senior facilities through Brazil Foundation with MLA Andrew Bochenko and a fiber optic specialist. So we walked through the Shangri-La, Wishing Well, and third one right on the 50th, Leisure Lee, or I don't know what it's called. So the fiber optic specialist sent a request to tell us to give options back, and then we'll just move forward with whatever's the best one. And that's it.
Thank you very much for your report. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, it's been pretty slow for me. Summertime's upon us. The only thing I really did was the Canada Day Parade. Like everybody else has said, it was pretty good. Got a few steps in, slung some cake, like Councillor Evans said, and pretty sure I didn't eat any more than from Peace. They weren't that good at all. No, it was great. A good time. That's all I have.
Thank you for your report. For myself, nice weather's been really nice to have. Finally, I think that summer is officially here this week. It's been hot, so we have opened up our cooling center, as Hans had mentioned. So everybody, if they need to go head down there to get out of the heat, that's where you want to be. I attended the Canada Day Parade and celebrations with everybody as well. It was great. I was thinking with the long weekend that perhaps there'd be a lot of people still out of town, but I think it was the busiest that I've seen in the last few years. So it was really nice to see. And it was nice that we were able to enjoy the fireworks in the evening. I wasn't sure they were going to be going off, but they did. So it was fantastic to see that. I've been working with the Mid-Size Mayor's Caucus again and preparing for the meeting that we had with the Premier. That was last week. It was a really good meeting. One of the things that we're working on is we're discussing the challenges that mid-sized towns face and the lack of funding, I guess, that we have access to. We have aging infrastructure and capital projects that get pushed year after year. And so we had a nice working meeting with the Premier trying to look at solutions that we can maybe access some of these little pockets of funding, the same pockets of funding that bigger centers like Edmonton and Calgary seem to get, like $60 million that they got for buses that just sit there and aren't being used. And we're saying, hey, maybe we could be having access to that money. So we will continue those meetings. We'll be starting a working group. So that's fantastic news to try to look at ways that we can obtain that money. She did throw around a few solutions that I'll discuss a little bit further and see what our finance department thinks about those. And yeah, so just looking forward to continuing those meetings. I jumped online as well with Minister Williams on an addictions meeting. They have slated $1.5 billion focused towards mental health and addiction. It is a new ministry, and they're going to be rolling it out starting, I think it started July 1st. I'm not sure what they're rolling out over the summer, but it's part of that Alberta Health Services and dividing into those 4 pillars. This is the mental health and addictions pillar. They will be, they're supposed to be doing some big announcement in September and creating actually that pillar. So there is funding there. I know that we do have Opportunity Home in our own community there. You know, that hopefully that will help support that, as well as, you know, the other groups and organizations that are running our shelter pods and warming center and things like that. Maybe there'll be a continual flow of money and support that will be helping that. As well as there was a mention that if we're wanting to have a meeting with Minister Williams and have him to our community, that we need to reach out as soon as possible because there are 500 communities and he won't be able to go to all of them. So if we want him to come here this summer, maybe we can decide if we want him here, and if we do, come up with a game plan and get a letter to him if we think that that is good. We do have, like I said, a lot of organizations and groups that are using that. So $1.5 billion, it's a lot of money, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of that is already allocated for. I know that they're going to be putting treatment centers in a few First Nation locations that they've already talked about. There's 4 or 5 already that are being built, so there is some dollars that have been spent there. And that is it for my report. It is a little bit quieter with summer. Meetings aren't as crazy as they have been, and we'll be picking it back up in September again. Is there a member of council that would like to make a motion to accept both the department reports and council reports as information? Councilor Sheriffs, thank you very much for that. All in favor? That is carried. Monthly project status reports. Does anybody have any questions there? Go ahead, Councilor Clark.
I'm assuming there's a reason for this, but there aren't any dates associated with anything in there, just in terms of, we talk about summary for the period, plans for next period, those sorts of things, but I don't see anything that says that we have a definitive completion date for any of these. All I see is next update is coming, say, August 7th, for instance. So for instance, if we look at OP number 33, facility branding, we talk about some of the things we're doing, but there's no timelines on anything, no dates associated with anything. And I think that's pretty consistent with pretty much every one of them.
Noted. Thank you.
And then the other question I had was just around, bear with me here 1 second, was CP 504, the scoreboard and Omni one. We talked about the sound system. Did we decide on whether we're doing a repair and upgrade or just leaving as is? Because I know you mentioned in your report that there was some stuff going on with the sound system. Just wanted some clarification on where we landed there.
Thank you for that question, and through the chair to the rest of council as well, Councillor Clark. So because it fits in the current budget of the project / the operations budget, we do the repair. So there's a couple of speakers that are going to be bought new to add to this system that we already have. So currently it's a basically repair / little upgrade on the system. With that, we basically hope that the system will be very sufficient for our facility. If that's not the case, we will experience that, of course, over the ice season, and then it might become a bigger project in the future, and then it will come separately, of course, to council.
Perfect. Thank you.
Did you have any other
That's
questions?
all I have.
That's it? I just have a question in regards to the status reports about locating grants for scope of work, particularly to upgrade stormwater system in the area of the new school. So how are we doing with, I guess, working with Alberta Council, and how is that working for some of, I guess, of our projects accessing grants? Or do we know yet? Is it too early? It's too early?
It's a little bit early on that. Madam Mayor, they do have a scheduled meeting with them next week with Clay, is his name.
Okay.
I believe he's coming into town to talk about some of the grants that he's written for some of our community-based organizations. But for us, we have sent him our 5-year plan. And we haven't seen any grants come as a result of that yet.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Is there a member of council that would like to move us into closed session under FOIP section 24.1.2 and FOIP section 16.1? Councillor Clark, thank you very much for that. All in favor? That is carried.